All right, so this is just a little quick touch and base, letting you guys know I'm still actually out here working, getting some stuff done. So, I started my weld work on these. So these are my TCI suspension brackets. Some of these welds look pretty, some don't. This one, for instance, I had to bridge a big gap. Did a little amateur cup walking, but I still have to find out if this vent hole is gonna work. I gotta bring my brackets out. Welded a bung into the bottom. See my sloppy work here. These top ones, I tried MIGging first, and my wire spool, I don't know if anybody fishes, but essentially what happened was real similar to if you're fishing with a braid line on a bait caster and you set a hook into something big, whether it be large bass, redfish, any large fish. The braid digs into the spool. Essentially, that's what happened to my wire feed. I've got one of these. I can't open up because of all the shit here, but I've got one of the big spools, and it just was feeding. I got about halfway down it, and it just stopped. I was like, oh, okay. So I opened it up, and the wire was like overlapped down in the spool, and it wouldn't feed. So I had to manually dig it out and then re-spool it onto the reel. So after that, it looked like shit because that one got jacked up. One of these got jacked up because the my torch hit. It has a little spacer. In fact, it's down here. It's probably still hot, so I'm not gonna pick it up. But this spacer here is, you bolt onto here, and it gives the gap here. There's a bolt that runs through there. Well, it's hard to get down in there. I was trying to get some tacks in there good, so I didn't have to worry about the heat pulling them in. So I got a good many tacks on the inside, and then I ran the whole outside, and then I came back and buttoned up the inside. Well, anyways, they look pretty shitty. So I went back over them with a TIG torch, and well, they're not the prettiest. They probably buff out decently, but they're horribly scorched. I guess that's what happens when you weld it twice. But it prettied them up nonetheless. I mean, it's gonna get painted anyways, so I'm not that worried about it. But this drain bung, I don't know if you can tell, it's obviously flipped over, but this drain bung will make it where I can drain the differential without having to just pull the third member off. Because I will need to change this. I don't know if you watched the previous video, if you remember me saying, oh, that's hot. I'm throwing just a plain Jane stock third member back in here, and later on I'll be throwing a Detroit tree track in here. In fact, pretty quickly. In fact, I'm hoping it won't be on the road long before. That'll be pretty much the first upgrade that gets done whenever the car's on the road. If I'm lucky, I'll actually have the money to where I only have to run that thing, but I went ahead and rebuilt one of those anyways. But back to the basics. I still have to bevel these ends. Still waiting on my buddy to make me some bushing inserts for the housing ends and the bushing inserts for in here that I have to use that housing to weld with. You just take the bearings out of the caps in here and you put in an aluminum bushing or aluminum spacer pretty much, and you slide a large rod like the axle rod all the way through one side. So it'll have the housing end with one of those inserts here, passes through, it'll have the two caps, both with an insert, passes all the way through and through another housing end over here. And you have just little, the ones they sell are brass, but all it is a collar, an Allen lock collar. You just slide that on the rod to kind of bring both sides in tight, so it kind of pinches the ends together, and then you tighten down the Allen, it holds it all tight for you to put a whole bunch of tacks around the ends, and it keeps it all aligned. So that's pretty much the only thing I'm waiting on to finish this, at least to move forward on this, because I need those ends put on, and then I have to get these put on first, my spring or coilover brackets. Those will get put on either tomorrow or this weekend probably. Those have to get put on. Then I have to put the ends on, tube ends. The only thing I'll have to do after that is maybe some brake clamps or fittings. So let's see there's one here, right there. That's just a bend over to hold the line. I bought some weld-on bulkhead plates. I don't know if they'll work because I decided I'm running AN everything on this car. Everything on the car is going to be AN fittings pretty much. If it's not AN, it'll be a whatever to AN, NPT to AN, etc. So my brakes are Willwoods. They're ordered. I'm gonna ship one day, I guess. Apparently they're backed up, but they're MPT on the ends. So I bought some MPT to AN fittings, and it's gonna have 37-degree flange, stainless steel hard line that passes one side to the other. And then I've got an ANT that's gonna go on this thing, which I probably am gonna have to modify this because this is a big ass hole for the old school standard bung, and the AN flange or T's are little bitty. But I still have to mock up my brake line, and my flange tool comes in tomorrow, so I can start making my brake stuff. I also have to either put hopefully this will work. If not, I'm gonna have to weld this up and then drill and tap a new vent hole. Then I've just got to pour 15 the whole thing. So, on to the other things. I don't remember if I showed this last time. Got my coilovers in, and they are beautimous. Good old made in the US of A, QA1. These are 550 spring rate. I went ahead and got 50-pound heavier spring because I plan on running a fully filled engine bay. Got my long tie rod ends. The first ones were like this long, and apparently they're not meant for this T-bird rack that I'm running. So they only threaded in, about a half inch or so, which from what I read, the only thing you have to have is equal to the diameter that of the rod. And it was a little more over half inch. It was the equivalent of the rod thickness, maybe slightly over, but it wasn't enough for me to be comfortable. So I ordered these. Luckily I found a set for like 24 bucks on eBay. And they're actually the rod ends that go to another Mustang 2 kit, so worked out. I'm waiting on, actually they came in today, but they're getting delivered tomorrow. These bolts are too short. They just barely engage. I think I showed that in the last video. Not these, the ones for the rack. I ordered some new bolts from Fastenal grade 8s. They're in. I ordered button head bolts for these stainless to replace these black oxide ones. The reason I went ahead and spent like 40 bucks on all stainless button head bolts, I recently just found a forum that had a Pro Touring build on it, and they had the exact same TCI suspension, and the car was beautiful, gorgeous. Everything was just brand new looking, powder coated, painted, clean as could be, billet, coil over everything, you name it, just clean build. They rolled to the underside, and every single one of these bolts, the nut was stainless, it looked like, or it was still zinc coated. These black oxide bolts, every single one of them was just rusted as could be. So I don't want that to happen, so I went ahead and went stainless. On to the other things I'm doing. I stripped the hood. That was a pain. I need to become friends with aircraft paint stripper. Start using that shit, because wire wheeling this whole thing or using a paint stripping tool sucked. In fact, I think I burnt up one of my grinders because I tried to use a 7-inch paint stripper wheel, and my grinder was smoking. I had to put it down. It was getting so hot. It didn't do well. Apparently it's not a good idea to run a 7-inch wheel on a 4.5-inch grinder. Do whatever you got to do, I guess, right? So I don't plan on keeping this hood. I plan on doing a Shelby front end, sort of. The car's named Elaina, if you haven't guessed from all the Mustang video updates I do. So the front end, I don't care for the Eleanor back end. I don't care for the large scoops, really. They're just overused. I do like the long hood look. I do like the cutout middle with grill, and it's going to be a twin turbo car. I want to show off that nice intercooler. But the one thing I don't like is that Eleanor front ends do away with the front bumper. I like the front bumper. If you go to Meyer Racing's website, they have an Eleanor front end or Shelby front end kit that's the whole upper nose with the headlight buckets, a lower like Shelby nose with the cutout, and they sell the long Eleanor hoods. But they have a car on there that's gray that is almost the identical of what I'm shooting for, because it actually is a coupe too, I think. But in the meantime, I have to patch all these holes. I'm gonna try to weld these up, hopefully, maybe. They're pretty scattered and nasty. These hoods are actually fairly cheap. I think they're like 200 bucks or something like that. Surprised me. I love the way these hoods look. I love the blinker inserts. I'm not gonna be running the blinkers in them anymore because it's just wiring that won't be there in the end game. So I'm just gonna leave the grill there. But I loved the fact of, for a while when I had the car on the street, the hood was flat black, but these inserts were still the baby blue color that the car was. And I thought it just looked gorgeous the way the two-tone was just accented. But I thought about, since this is gonna be a scrap hood, trying to make something a little bit different with it and customizing and modding it, doing whatever. Because the car is not stock. It's not gonna look stock, it's not gonna be stock. It's far from just the old school Mustang. So I wanted to do something a little more, or not more, but less subtle, to make it look unique and custom and pop a little bit, but not something outrageously crazy. There's another car I found that was named Black Death. If you Google that, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's this hood, and they put like a Shelby scoop in the middle of it. And I think they actually had a purpose for it because theirs wouldn't clear the hood bonnet. I think it's a Pro-Charged Mustang. But they had clearance issues. They actually had to lower the motor too, I think, in the build. But they had this cut out and it still wouldn't fit the bonnet. But I don't really care for the way it looked because it has body lines in the hood. You see here, here, and a bunch of people will do stripes down right here. I thought of adding some kind of, I've seen carbon fiber vent inserts you can buy and running them like back here somewhere. Don't know how to look. Give me your opinion. If someone's good at Photoshop, that would be amazing if you could take this hood and do it. The downside is this is actually doubled and it has a rib support right about where it would go. It'd be right in this area. And I don't know if I want to cut into that. Up here is single. All this is single thickness, and the middle here is single thickness. So those are the ideal places to do something with it. But I mean, if all worst came to worst, I could cut here and I would just probably spot weld this together to add some strength where I was taking strength away. So I'd probably just run my TIG and spot weld before I cut in various places. Or actually, I have a spot weld gun. I'd just probably just clamp the edge here and spot weld it together before I cut. But let me know what y'all think about doing something like that. I don't want it to look gaudy. I don't want it to look ricey or anything like that. I just want to add a uniqueness. And remember, this isn't going to be permanent. This hood's going away. I mean, I plan on going with an Eleanor hood, and I thought of even doing something unique with that Eleanor hood similar to that. They actually sell an Eleanor hood with the louvers, but I don't really care the way they look. I like carbon fiber. I like the idea of a carbon insert. That's what I would lean towards. The ones that they have are fiberglass, and all they are is it's just fiberglass, and then it literally has just slotted holes with the little cant in it, and I don't think it looks that good. And the only ones I've seen that they sell, Meyer sells them actually, but it's the high rise. I'm going with a low rise hood. I don't want a crazy scoop or anything like that. I don't know if you noticed, but so this was blasted last weekend. It's been pouring ass rain all week, and it's humid as hell out here. You can see it's starting to surface rust here some. That's the only place. I just scuffed this spot and right here where it had some and reapplied. I'm thinking I just didn't wipe it down good enough, and these are areas that had oil from my skin or whatever touching them. But I threw some after blast on them from Eastwood. My buddy Mr. Jimmy told me that this stuff was highly recommended by another shop in North Mississippi, I believe he said. This bottle is pretty old. I don't know if it goes bad, so I've had that for 2-3 years, so that could be part of my problem too. But from what I can tell, it seems to be working because, like I said, it's only rusting in a couple areas. I guess I'll find out if it comes back in these areas I just scuffed and cleaned. But I'm thinking you just need to wipe, like after you blast or sand or whatever, remove the paint, you need to clean it with wax grease remover, acetone, something to get any oils off of it, and then coat that. The instructions I don't think say that. The instructions say just after blasting, you spray that on, let it sit for like 2 to 5 minutes, and you wipe away, but you wipe away till clean. This shit wasn't coming clean because it's not all stripped all the way down. This black stuff, I guess, is like original primer or something. That stuff's still there. It didn't, the wire wheel didn't take all that stuff off. I'll be going back over this before I paint it or epoxy it with a sander, with a DA, and get it down to bare metal before I spray it anyways. And I've been running my mouth, so now I'm out of breath. But, so you see where I'm at here. I got my front end together, still waiting on my brakes, waiting on my buddy still with my bushings for my rear end. I gotta get the car on wheels so I can get the hood on, so I can get my hood gap for the fenders, so I can get my body work done on my gaps here. I need to do weld work still with this. This stuff here is for the most part good on weld work. Some of it will require a little bit of work, like this here maybe. That looks like it needs a little bit of wire maybe, and this is a little snug here. But I also bought some like door sealant, sticky back tape seal roll, similar to what I used on the blast cabinet. I don't know if anyone watched that video or remembers it, but they sell it at Home Depot, Lowe's. It's whatever thickness, width. But I've seen it used by some body shops where they take it and they run it along this seam here, like that. So when you shut the door, there's not a hole. You're pushing against that foam. So then you can take your Bondo or body filler or whatever and just swipe down this, and it doesn't fill the void with body filler. Some people just let it fill and then come back and cut it away, but this way it's a lot less waste and cleaner, and you don't have to fight with getting stuff off. You just swipe it, come back with a razor and run the razor down it before it fully sets up, and just pull that little bit of strip away. But I'm gonna try that method. I'm hesitant to start working towards that. I kind of want to get on wheels before I go in and doing more body work stuff. That way I can actually start doing some assembly. I do want to get my fuel lines and brake lines probably taken care of before I get it off rotisserie, so I can roll the car over and get to the underside easily. But I do have my master cylinders as well. I ordered them. I guess next video I'll bring my boxes of all my shit out here and start going over what I have. I'm thinking these holes where the old bulkhead went will probably be a perfect fit for my 2 brake bulkheads, I think. These 2 probably won't get used at all. Oh, that one might work for a fuel line. I might be able to do a fuel bulkhead there. But we'll see. Till next time, guys, thanks for watching. And like I said, give me some tips, some ideas, some thoughts on that, about something unique I can do with it. Like I said, it's a throwaway. Something to play with. I don't want something that's gonna take a ton of time either though, because I don't want it to slow me down on getting this thing rolling. All right, guys, thanks for watching.